Meghan a geriatric mother. The family claims and state that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out? This is a punishable crime. This is fraud in the highest levels.
Things just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere.
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates.
People sold Meghan Markle as some shiny modern Cinderella, but this story did not play out like a sweet fairy tale at all. The glass slipper did not just slide on and sparkle. In the version her critics tell, she grabbed it, forced it, cracked it, and then turned the broken pieces into content, headlines, and big money deals. That is the image her harshest watchers cannot stop pushing, and it is exactly why her name still sets off a storm every single time it trends. From Hollywood ambition to Buckingham Palace drama, Meghan turned the royal dream into a non-stop media machine. Somehow, she always seemed to land in the center of every chapter as both the wounded victim and the woman controlling the scene. Every interview felt polished. Every emotional moment looked timed. Every personal reveal arrived with just enough mystery to keep people talking. You almost have to respect how sharp the image-making was. Almost. But behind the glossy photos, the hand-holding, and the carefully shaped public image, Samantha Markle has been pointing to something much darker for a long time. As Meghan's own half-sister, Samantha has always claimed she saw the real version behind the camera-ready smile, and according to her, there is one secret Meghan has guarded harder than any royal jewel, a secret tied to the pregnancies.
When you have been lied about for a series of years, how hurtful that is.
The titles and the story the public was told from the start. That is why Samantha's now famous warning hit so hard. She did not need a long rant. She did not need some wild meltdown. She just told people to look at the timeline, and that one line sent the internet into a frenzy. Suddenly, old clips came back, old photos came back, old questions came back. And what some people found did not just make them curious, it made them furious. Because in the eyes of critics, if Samantha was even partly right, then Meghan's image as the perfect royal mother might not be the clean, simple truth it was sold as. So this is the version of the story that keeps pulling people back in, not the polished fairy tale, not the palace-approved image, not the soft-focus royal romance. This is the rougher, uglier, more explosive side that Meghan's critics believe has been hidden in plain sight all along. And once people start spotting what they think are cracks in that fantasy, they say it becomes impossible to unsee them. Every royal saga needs a villain, but Samantha Markle has made it clear she does not plan to quietly wear that label for Meghan's convenience. For years, she watched her half-sister go from television actress to global duchess, smiling for cameras, cleaning up old details, and building a whole new identity that looked grander, cleaner, and more royal than ever. To Samantha, it was not just reinvention, it was erasure. And that is the part she clearly never got over. Because while Meghan was speaking about kindness, compassion, and healing, Samantha believed the Markle side of the family was being cut out piece by piece.
If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
A doctor has come forward and has absolutely revealed, and you're going to listen to her. She has absolutely revealed and confirmed that Rachel Meghan Markle was never pregnant, never gave birth to any children.
In her view, Meghan did not simply step away from family tension, she wiped the board clean. To critics, that made the image problem much worse. They saw a woman preaching empathy in public while leaving her father and relatives completely shut out in private. Eventually, Samantha stopped staying quiet. She reportedly said, "If Meghan can rewrite history, then I'll remind the world what really happened." And that line carried weight because it sounded personal, bitter, and direct. Then she dropped the sentence that really blew everything open. People need to look at the timeline. No screaming, No long attack, just a cold little warning that told people exactly where to dig. And once people started digging, the speculation got ugly fast. Samantha's critics rolled their eyes at first, but even some of them admitted the timeline arguments were sticky enough to keep spreading. Meghan's pregnancy story had already been discussed online for years, and Samantha's comment gave fresh life to every old debate. The dates, the photos, the secrecy, the public appearances, the official statements. People pulled all of it apart like they were trying to solve a locked room mystery. When Kensington Palace announced in October 2018 that Meghan was expecting, the news looked joyful on the surface. But online, critics instantly started questioning details. They pointed to the lack of the kind of public birth pageantry royal watchers had come to expect. They replayed clips. They zoomed in on photos. They obsessed over that infamous crouching moment when some claimed her bump looked strange on camera. Supporters called the whole thing ridiculous and cruel.
Here, the doctor talks about both the children, and listen to what she says.
So you tell me to tell you something that maybe a dozen people actually know that's going to come out very soon. Okay. Meghan Markle, the reason why you watch her interviews and she just seems off, she's owned by a pharmaceutical company. The two children that she had, they're not hers. She didn't have them with Harry. And how her and Harry met is that she's a prostitute.
Critics said it was suspicious, and just like that, the argument was off and running again. Then came 2021 and baby number 2, and to Meghan's skeptics, the same pattern seemed to repeat itself. More privacy, more silence, more frustration from people who felt the public was being asked to accept a lot while being shown very little. Every appearance was called strategic. Every quiet stretch was treated like a cover-up by the online crowd already convinced something was off. The palace did not give the kind of sweeping clarification critics wanted, and that silence only made the rumours grow louder. This is also where older claims began getting dragged back into the spotlight. Reports and rumours about alleged past medical issues started circulating again, with critics using them to build even more theories around the pregnancies. To be fair, these claims have remained unverified, and that matters. But online drama does not slow down just because proof is thin. In fact, sometimes it moves even faster when facts are missing, and people can fill the gaps with whatever they want. Samantha seemed to understand that perfectly when she pointed people back to the timeline instead of spelling anything out directly. But just when the whole thing already seemed wild enough, another figure entered the story.
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt. And there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
But if you look at this, Meghan Markle has been incredibly quiet about the birth, but mostly the pregnancy of these children. Everything has been shady. The one who's been blabbing and saying crazy things is Prince Harry.
And that is where this saga really went off the rails. The next shock did not come from the palace. It did not come from the press. It came from a woman identified only as DL, and her claims were so explosive that they instantly sent social media into chaos. No title, no public profile, just 2 letters and a story that critics said could blow the royal narrative apart. According to the version spreading online, DL claimed she was not just some witness in the background. She claimed she was the woman who carried the children. That allegation alone was enough to set comment sections on fire. She described a world of private clinics, heavy secrecy, guarded entrances, coded files, fake names, and deals designed to leave almost no visible trail. It sounded less like a royal story and more like a thriller, and that is exactly why it spread so fast. DL alleged that Meghan and Harry came to consultations separately and kept everything tightly controlled. She claimed nothing was signed under real names. She claimed every appointment was timed carefully around public appearances. She claimed she was pushed into the shadows after each stage, told to stay invisible, stay quiet, and stay useful. In her words, she was treated like a vessel, and that wording made the whole thing sound even colder and more dramatic to the people already primed to believe the worst. Then came the part that really supercharged the story. The so-called evidence. DL said she had documents. She said she had records. She said she had proof that matched the timeline. According to the claims circulating around her reveal, she produced clinic intake paperwork, ultrasound images marked with coded names, and digital payment trails routed through shell companies. Whether any of that could be fully verified was another question entirely, but by then the internet was already running with it at full speed. People online started connecting every claimed document to every old public appearance, like they were fitting together a giant scandal puzzle. Screenshots, encrypted emails, initials, aliases, legal threats, all of it became part of the growing myth around DL's story. She allegedly said the payments dried up during the second pregnancy and that silence itself was supposed to be the final deal. But according to her version, she was done staying buried this time, and that made the whole thing even more explosive. Forums lit up, hashtags jumped, reaction channels pounced. Even people who did not fully believe DL could not stop watching the fallout. Journalists reportedly tried to verify parts of the story, but hard confirmation stayed frustratingly out of reach. Still, the timing of everything, at least to critics, felt too sharp to dismiss so easily. That is why DL's final line hit like a grenade. If I'm lying, I'll take a DNA test on live TV. That one challenge changed the whole mood online from rumour to showdown. When the palace stayed quiet, the speculation only got worse. Silence in a royal story never stays silent for long. It turns into suspicion, theories, and people reading between the lines until there is no space left untouched. And once DL threw down that live TV DNA challenge, the internet absolutely lost it. Those 16 words blasted across social media like a royal alarm bell. Headlines flew, comment sections exploded. People picked sides instantly, with one side calling DL a hero, while the other side branded her a liar chasing fame, and that brutal split only made the fire burn hotter. While one side branded her a fraud chasing 15 minutes of fame, another side kept asking the one question nobody could shut down. What if she is right? That was the spark that kept this whole mess alive. For every skeptic laughing it off, somebody else leaned in closer, wondering if this was not just another royal rumour, but the beginning of something much bigger. The gossip stopped sounding like gossip and started sounding like a full-blown investigation. Talk shows wanted DL on set. Tabloids were rumoured to be offering six-figure deals. YouTube channels picked apart every second of her interview like it held the answer to everything. And through all of that chaos, Meghan and Harry stayed completely silent. No denial, no sharp statement, no emotional response, nothing at all. That silence landed harder than any polished press release ever could. To critics, it looked suspicious. To supporters, it looked controlled. But either way, it became part of the story. And the longer it lasted, the louder it got. Then Samantha stepped right back into the storm without fully confirming or denying DL's claims. She did not give a long speech. She did not explode on camera. She simply posted a line from her father. The truth doesn't fear questions. That was enough. Just one sentence, and suddenly the fire got hotter. What was already a messy royal drama started turning into something far more serious. People began whispering that palace aides were scrambling behind closed doors. Publicists were said to be in damage control mode. Insiders allegedly hinted that private conversations about legitimacy had already started. What began as a sister's warning had now grown into something much darker in the public imagination. Because if DL's challenge ever led to proof, if the DNA claim turned out to be real, it would not just damage one family story. It could shake the image of the monarchy itself. That is when this stopped feeling like normal tabloid scandal and started drifting into dangerous territory. Even the gossip press seemed cautious, because this was no longer just about celebrity drama. It was about the throne, the line of succession, and one old royal rule that still carries weight. British succession tradition has long leaned on the phrase, born of the body, an ancient standard that sounds outdated, but still sits right at the centre of royal legitimacy. The second that phrase entered the conversation, the whole story got heavier, and that was the nightmare scenario people kept circling back to. If DL's claims were ever proven true, then critics argued the Sussex children could face questions under that old standard. That does not make the rumour true, and it does not turn speculation into fact. But in public debate, one unverified claim was suddenly enough to trigger a constitutional panic in headlines, online discussion, and royal commentary. That is how explosive this became. Behind palace gates, the whispers only got louder. Some insiders claimed there were frantic phone calls with legal advisors. Others talked about quiet briefings meant to stop reporters from pushing the wrong questions. Commentators debated whether modern surrogacy law, if any of this ever touched that issue, could clash with royal custom. Politicians stayed careful. Lawyers went on air. Royal watchers split into rival camps. Nobody wanted to say too much, but nobody could stop talking either. The public broke straight down the middle. Some defended Meghan hard, saying the monarchy should modernise instead of hiding behind ancient standards. Others demanded full transparency from a family that trades so heavily on bloodline, image, and public trust. And in the middle of it all, conspiracy channels had a field day. Every theory found an audience. Every old clip got replayed. Every missing detail became proof to someone. For the first time, this was no longer just Meghan versus Samantha. It had become a bigger question about whether the monarchy itself could survive another scandal without coming out permanently damaged. And according to several supposed palace insiders, that fear was not just panic, it was strategy. Because history shows the same pattern again and again. When the crown feels cornered, the first rule is always protect the institution, protect the symbol, protect the machine. And if somebody else takes the hit to make that happen, so be it. That belief shaped the way critics read every silent move the palace made afterward. The palace stayed still. Not a correction, not a strong denial, not even a visible attempt to shut the theories down. Just that classic Windsor quiet that has buried scandal before. But this time, the silence did not look powerful, it looked flammable. Every hour without a clear answer made the noise louder. TV panels argued over whether the palace was being smart or making a huge mistake. Online sleuths dug through old photos, old announcements, and every public detail they could find, hoping something would suddenly click. The Sussex supporters cried witch hunt, the skeptics shouted cover-up, and in the middle of all that chaos stood Samantha, giving interviews with the calm of someone who had already accepted being painted as the family villain. She was not screaming. She was not throwing insults. She spoke in measured lines about truth, dignity, family accountability, and silence. That calm made her sound even more dangerous to Meghan's defenders, because each interview seemed to add another crack to Meghan's polished public image. Samantha even hinted that there were more receipts waiting if anyone tried to bury her side again. That hint alone pushed the media circus even further. Paparazzi chased records. Lawyers debated privacy rights. Royal historians admitted they had rarely seen the public this divided over one royal controversy. Every unanswered question became another headline. Every rumour became another possible twist. And through all of it, Meghan and Harry's silence only got heavier. To critics, that silence looked like guilt. To fans, it looked like defiance. To everyone else, it looked like confusion wrapped in polished PR and locked behind palace walls. Then, just when the noise seemed to peak, Samantha delivered one final statement that no spin doctor could smooth over, because sometimes the quietest voice hits the hardest. It happened without fanfare, no major press event, no dramatic setup. Just Samantha Markle in a dim studio, one microphone, one chair, and one final chance to say her piece. The interviewer asked her directly, "Do you regret saying all this?" She paused, stared ahead, and answered with 10 words that froze the room. I regret only if the truth stops being the truth. That line landed like a blade. It was not rage. It was not chaos. It was resignation with steel behind it. Samantha no longer sounded like someone asking to be believed. She sounded like someone daring the world to prove her wrong. She talked about missed family dinners, ignored calls, years of distance, and a sister who, in her view, turned her past into a fairy tale built on selective memory. Her tone was not jealous. It was cold, precise, and controlled. She said she did not want fame or pity, only for what she saw as lies to stop echoing louder than facts. And just before the interview ended, she dropped one more line: history will remember who told the truth first. Within hours, that clip was everywhere. Supporters called her brave, critics called her cruel, but everybody watched, because whether people loved Meghan or could not stand her, one thing had become impossible to ignore. Samantha's words had cracked the royal illusion wide open. For the first time, the fairy tale did not end with a smile and a photo op finish. It ended with a question hanging in the air. After the whispers, the interviews, the alleged evidence, and the online chaos, what is really left? A divided family, a monarchy dodging pressure, a sister refusing to be silenced. Maybe Samantha's claims are truth. Maybe they are pain. Maybe they are something in between. But one thing is certain: they exposed cracks in the royal image that no PR machine can fully repair. Because when truth becomes a battlefield, reputation is the first casualty. And in this story, everybody gets hit by the fallout: the Duchess, the sister, and even the palace itself. But before you decide who you believe, you need to see what started the storm in the first place. Our earlier deep dive broke down how Meghan's pregnancy story came under even more heat when Candace Owens raised explosive new questions. It connects the timeline, the secrecy, the claims, and the pressure behind the scenes in a way that changes the whole picture. So do not stop here. Like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Star Spotlight with notifications on, because behind royal curtains, the drama never sleeps, and the next chapter could be the one that blows this story even wider open.